Yeah, I don't think that's the crowd's here for
Total.
but nobody likes that.
Who made it?
They're making that up. Like Eric beautiful. No, I mean, seriously, David Ugly.
Yeah.
Could be. Just what happened. More than enough. I do.
Good evening.
There's a medium.
I, Fred Hashimoto, Mayor of Corrales, would like to call this meeting of the governing body to order. It is February 10th, 2026. Please turn off your cells or put them on silent and stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Councilor Miera.
Present.
Councilor Woldman.
Here.
Councilor Knight.
Here.
Councilor Burkett.
Here.
Councilor Murray.
Here.
And Councilor Alsobrook is not here. I'd like a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Lacking discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Agenda passes. Appointments. David Janney is nominated for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission with term ending in June 30th, 2026. Is David here? You want to stand up? Any questions for David? Councilor Murray.
Hey, thank you. You want to come on up and talk to the mic? So I just want to ask you about what's your vision for joining the committee and what do you expect to accomplish?
I've attended a couple of the meetings already, and we've had some really good discussions about how to increase the bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure in Corrales. Not necessarily on Corrales Road, but other places that people walk and ride. So I'd like to participate in that.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Councilor Woldman. David, you're not done yet.
So seeing that you may be clairvoyant and have some insight, given your background in biking for so many years, what is the solution for bikes on Corrales Road?
On Corrales Road?
Yeah,
Um,
perhaps a diversion to Loma Larga. I mean, there are some.
I would prefer that bicycles stay off of Corrales Road, frankly. I would like to see Loma Larga further developed if possible. I think the only safe solution to develop bicycle infrastructure on Corrales Road would be to have a completely separate dedicated bike path on one side or the other. Based on what I know, that's probably not going to happen.
Right. Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions for David? You've been nominated. Any more discussion? May I have a motion to approve David Janney?
Motion to approve is David Jennings.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Congratulations. You're on. Next item is administrator's report. This was in the packet. And are there any questions to our administrator about what was in the report? Councilor Murray and
Thank
then
you, Mayor. So
Councilor Burkett.
my understanding, you're meeting this Friday with the DOT to talk about the Safe Routes to School. Is that an open meeting to anybody, or is that just pretty closed off?
No, I think it's by invitation only through the DOT. It's a monthly meeting that they have with the partners that have Safe Streets for All programs.
Is it possible that maybe Commander Latin could be attending, or she get an invitation?
I can see if we can get her one.
I mean, I think since she's kind of driven this Safe Routes to Schools before, I think it'd be a good point to have her attend.
And when I first talked with the lady at DOT, we talked about the possibility of a walking school bus program, We've talked about some walk and roll events. And this conversation that I had with her originally took place back in October. And National Walk and Roll Day is in October. And so I had reached out to the school to try and see if we could get something, kind of low key going. But it was just too close to the event. And I think the principal was, had other things that they were dealing with. So I think at this point, maybe trying to reach out to the PTA and getting them involved that way might be the way to go, and seeing if we can get some support through the PTA and then moving forward. Because without the support of APS, it's going to be really hard to get a Safe Routes to School program going again.
Okay, Mayor, I would also suggest that when budget talks come up, that we think about putting some money into the Safe Routes to School. I'd suggest maybe the 25,000 start with, or if somebody has a higher figure that we could support. But I think that would be a good start that we could also piggyback on if we get the Safe Routes to School initiated again.
Okay, noted.
The other idea that that I had was, we had Amy Bell take a look at the interior drain property for us, and if we had a pathway that went from the administration parking lot up to the school, that could be a start of the Safe Route program. It would be a route that they could take. So that's something else we could look at too, is developing that portion of the interior drain, kind of going off of the recommendations that Amy Bell had previously given us, because they were just recommendations, they were just ideas, but we could look at bringing in somebody to actually design that, if that's something that the council would like to pursue.
Councilor Waldman?
Thank you, Mayor. You mentioned in your report about the MRGCD meeting, and do we have any update on the siphon?
No, not, I have not heard from them.
Okay.
So, yeah, I will reach out again and see if we can get something for the next administrator's report.
And did you want to save a discussion on the records for when we get to the records listing, or did you want, I just have a couple
Yeah, no,
questions.
go ahead and ask.
Yeah, so do we know of all the boxes that we have that they took, what percentage we're going to be able to reduce?
We don't know yet.
Okay.
There's, the majority of the boxes had been stored at the Jones house previously. And then when we had to demolish the house, those got moved into a Connex container. And those had been compiled by previous staff, and not all of them were marked. There were a few that I had opened the lid and it looked like somebody took their desk and just went. And so, that's part of the reason we're paying this company, is they'll go in and they will sort through every single piece of paper, and then they will give us an inventory of everything. So but I am guessing it'll probably be a huge chunk. I know what is definitely coming back are all of our original ordinances and all of our original minutes, because we do want them scanned because we want digital backups of all of those, but we also want the originals. So those will come back, and those already had a home in Village Hall. So,
Okay.
But I'm guessing a lot of the stuff that had been in the Connex container, which is the majority of the boxes, is probably stuff that once we have the digital copy, we can go ahead and shred.
So when you did the listing, it indicated that the municipal league had made some changes along with clerks throughout the state.
Yeah.
Were there surprises there? It seems like they reduced significantly what could be scanned in and what had to be kept. So I guess the question is, are we still going to have to use part of the old bank?
If we do, it's going to be very minimal.
Very minimal.
I do know we need a place for fire records. They're kind of busting at the seams with their records.
We have two buildings.
And then planning and zoning may also need, I know they have space in their attic, and it's pretty good right now, but I would like, if everything goes well with this scanning project, I would like to look at a phase 2 and a phase 3, bringing them in to do the records for planning and zoning, and possibly the fire department,
Yep.
Of course, if the chief approves of that. And I know there's some things that they have to keep because they're medical records, and it's a different type of way to store them. But the company is HIPAA certified, so they are able to do those kinds of
So
records.
Council Alsterbrook at the last meeting suggested that perhaps a storage company, we could contract with them. So is this a company that does that?
So what they do is they'll scan it all in for us, and then give us the files on a backup, like on a couple terabyte drive. And so we can then choose what gets placed onto our server and then what is just a digital backup. So we won't need any digital storage space.
But the hard
From there.
copies that we need to keep,
Yeah.
can they store those?
No, I don't think so.
But another company could.
We'll
Mountain or
have to
whoever.
look into that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mayor.
Councilor Burkett? And
Thank you, Mayor.
Bro.
So I keyed in on the same thing that Councilor Murray did, the safe routes to school conversation. I would love us to expand our conversation with MRGCD to talk to them about the fact that it is ironic that we have so many pathways and access roads and trails in this village, and we can't find a designated safe route to school because of some of the limitations that they put on their access roads. I think it's a discussion that we can be having about, I mean, the gentleman from the bike committee came up and said it's not safe for kids to ride down Corrales Road. I agree 100%. I have 3 kids who are riding bikes regularly, and it's not safe, but there is no way to get north or south other than using MRGCD property. And the conversation of e-bikes is coming up with adults and kids, and all of these things need to be discussed because I think we all want to see the kids out enjoying everything the village has to offer. And MRGCD right now is kind of a speed bump in that process.
It is. And, they're okay with the kids using that route. We just can't advertise it as a route. So that's where we're getting hung up, is in order to get funding and have a designated safe routes to school program, we have to have a map and a designated route and, maps that we can give out to parents to say, hey, this is how your child can get to school safely.
Yeah.
But MRGCD says you can't advertise this as recreation space, because then they also run into, we would have to look at, do we then have to make all the ditch banks ADA compliant? Because if we name it as a trail, then other regulations kick in. I did reach out to Jason Kasuga from the MRGCD this afternoon to see if we could set up a meeting with the new mayor so that mayor can ask questions. So we'll add that to the list of items to.
Yeah. It
address.
seems like they've created a pathway to add alternative uses to their properties at the end of 2024. So they've showed us the way to do it. We just got to hopefully see what they'll let us do with it.
Yeah.
Councilor Knight?
Thank you, Mayor. I thought when we talked about the interior drain last year, that MRGCD gave us kind of the rights to that, the ditch alongside that.
So we have a joint powers agreement. And what that joint powers agreement basically gives us is the right to, we now maintain the drain. So the property is owned by the Interior Department at the federal level. MRGCD manages it for them. We maintain it for MRGCD. So, but part of that JPA is that any improvements we make still has to have MRGCD approval. So anything we do, we have to go to them and say, hey, this is what we want to do. And, when we were negotiating the JPA, they said, more than likely anything you want to do, we'll probably say yes. But it does have to be approved by them before we do any actual improvements.
Okay, and one other question I had. I don't know if this is the right time to bring this up. It was resolution 2604, or should I wait? It's the guidelines for the retention.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to ask a quick question on section number 4. It says all previous retention schedules and email policies are hereby rescinded.
Mhm.
And this is the ones before, and now we got the new ones. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I think the last time we adopted a records resolution was in, I want to say 22, 23. I'm still a pretty new clerk when we adopted the last one, but yeah, so this basically just says that one is no longer going to be followed and it's replaced with the one that we have here.
Okay, I just wanted to check on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilor Murray?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So also on the finance side, you report that we've got approximately 4.1 million in the LGIP. Are we getting a comparable interest rate with it versus the stagecoach sweep?
I think they're pretty comparable. I'll double check with Joe on what the exact amount is on the interest for the LGIP, but I think they're.
My comment would be that anything we get out of the stagecoach sweep, we ought to put into the LGIP if the interest rates are comparable. Because I know probably with the stagecoach sweep, that value may shift depending on what bills being paid or and so forth. So any interest that we get there, we ought to be popping that into the LGIP. And that way we know it's not going into to be spent by other people, but we'll
Yeah,
get
so
there.
to move money into the LGIP, it needs a resolution by council. So it's,
Could we do that on a quarter basis or so?
I don't see why not. We could definitely look into that.
Mayor, do you have any objections to
No.
just add up the monthly figures and we'll send a resolution in on the quarter and move it into the LGIP?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then I just wanted to give sorry, did somebody else have a question?
No, Councilor Mira.
No, that's okay. I was agreeing with him.
Okay. Just a couple of quick updates of things that have come in since I wrote the report on Friday. The jewelry sale took place on Saturday for the Friends of the Corrales Library. There's not a final total, but it's estimated they raised $40,000. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So all of that money will go towards supporting programs for our public libraries. And also all of the electronic speed signs are now operable. And every time I say the word operable, my brain kicks into Star Wars mode, and I think my space station is now fully operational. But yeah, no, all of the signs are now working. There's 2 on Cabazon, there's 2 on Loma Larga, and then the one up on Meadowlark is now replaced and working. So I think that's everything. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I just like to give an addendum to that. Our legislative requests aren't known yet, the results. But I'd like to give a shout out to Senator Cindy Nava. Let me tell you a bill that was before the legislature. It was Senate Bill 131. It's related to property, eliminating restrictions on building height and number of stories, allowing residential apartments in commercial zones, allowing small-scale commercial uses in residential zones, allowing duplexes and townhouses in residential zones and mixed-use lots, allowing additional dwelling units in single-family zoning districts, prohibiting minimum parking mandates, creating an exception for accessible parking, revising the appeal process, amending, repealing, and enacting sections of NMSA 1978. Basically, this would have gutted Section 18 of our ordinances. It would have given the state power, basically, to mandate what our zoning ordinances and currently are. This was really scary, and it went to a committee that Senator Nava was on. And several of the governing body corresponded with Senator Nava. And it might not have been an easy decision because the sponsor of the bill and also another member of the same committee that Senator Nava was on were co-sponsors of Senator Nava's bill. And so you know how legislature goes, I help you, you help me sort of thing. But Senator Nava voted against it. The measure failed 7-2, and Senator Nava voiced strong opinions about having local governments make their own decisions as far as ordinances and zoning. So I think she is really to be commended for, doing the right thing and standing up for local governments making their own ordinances. So, and there's another ordinance that's up for the legislature. Maybe it's House Bill 138, and that would eliminate lot coverage, lot sizes. It was just limited to that. But apparently the governor has not pushed that out on to the floor. So it'll probably just die because it's not been assigned to any committee, and there's only 10 days left or so in the session. So we dodged a couple bullets there, I think. The first one is really scary, Senate Bill 131. A lot of us talked to legislators, we talked to municipal league, and actually I talked to a person I've known for decades, and he's on the committee that voted. And he said, well, most of New Mexico is backwards, and this bill would help set it straight. So it was, there's that. Some people feel that way, but fortunately, Senator Nava helped convince the committee to vote 7-2 to reject that bill. So she really deserves a round of applause. Thank you. I don't have any more issues. The next item are actually reports from requests for items for the next administrative report. Any counselor requests? Counselor Knight.
Just maybe an update on the siphon. Got
Any other requests? Counselor Waldman.
Thanks, Mayor. Your discussion about the elementary school, we probably won't know anything then until the fall. Is that something? Okay.
Yeah.
No reason to follow up on that now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they did send over their like chart from the construction company that shows when everything is going to be complete. But it was, I looked at trying to put it in the packet, and the font was like not even a 6-point font. And I was like, I don't think this is going to be helpful for anybody.
No, you're
But
right.
I do have a copy of it. If anybody wants to see it, please feel free to email me. I'm happy to email it to anybody who
You're right.
would like
Very
to.
good. I was just wondering if that's a set thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Any other suggestions? Good. Moving right along. Main Street will give a quarterly report. Angela, you're up.
Thanks for having me, Mayor, councilors, and administration. I'm just actually here in case there are questions or the reports in the packet. So,
Counselor Waldman.
Thank you, Mayor. Angela, thanks for coming.
yeah.
Just a couple of quick questions. Can you tell me, and I've seen this in the last couple of reports, can you tell me what's required on the LIDA ordinance to get the update? What we need to do for that?
So I think we would probably need to jointly look at it. There have been a couple of updates, I think, and there are a couple of versions, right? And so kind of to the point of municipal sort of local government decisions, our LIDA ordinance could be specific to what would be appropriate for Corrales.
Mhm.
We've talked about it, through the years. And I think a revision, it would be great to look at it and see what, because there are some focuses, that could help, retail more than others, arts, things like that. And I think one of the reasons that we don't focus a ton on LIDA is that it's, manufacturing. There are really specific things about it that few businesses actually do here. But it would be worth looking over. And obviously there's an advantage to just having the resource available. So be happy to help with it. And
Our LIDA ordinance was last updated in 2017. And it actually came up as part of, I had a meeting with our bond attorney, Jill Sweeney, because we'll be going into the next bond sale here in the next couple of months. We have to sell the next bond before the end of June. And she, just as we were talking about random things, she said, do you have a LIDA ordinance for the village? And I said, it's, an older ordinance. And I said, I hadn't personally wanted to push it just because, the economic development portion of it, I think a lot of Coraleños might feel like it's not something that they want here in the village. But I do think there are portions of that, as Angela said, portions of that ordinance that can benefit the businesses that are already here, and possibly even with funding for those businesses.
Yeah.
But we have to have an updated ordinance. And so Jill actually offered to take a look at the ordinance for us and see if she can recommend some updates to it. So if that's something that the council is interested, I can go ahead and direct her to
Because it's
start looking into
tremendously
that.
helpful to a company in the very south end of the village several years ago.
sure. And I think any of these sort of things can be viewed as a resource, and hopefully interpreted that way, especially if we have some control over the way the ordinance is written. And another point to that would be that the county is interested in working with us at some level, so that the ordinance for Sandoval County could also like doubly assist whatever. And obviously with the Arts and Cultural District, that was one that the ordinance could be really specific towards. And I think I referenced some of that funding that obviously we couldn't apply for. But for example, the old church could have definitely been an application. And so then having, the coordination with the county is another thing that I feel like Corrales could really look at what's appropriate, what do we want, and focus on how it's a resource.
Which leads to my last question, if I
Yeah.
could. And you stated many in the arts community are disappointed the ACD designation, et cetera. Is consideration being given to perhaps submitting again for discussion?
I think, we remain open. Obviously, as a community organization, we want to serve the community. But again, to the point of making sure the education is there so things are viewed as a resource and not a threat would probably be, step one. And certainly a decade's worth of work has gone into it. And I think has felt important to this community for an awfully long time. And certainly the value in revisiting just that, the volunteer hours. And I think the original consideration in 2014 when, Music in Corrales, it was CCAC, the actual parent organization of all that, but really worked hard to initiate it. And so, yes, would be, I think, the answer to being open to anything that's desirable.
I think there may be members of this council would be interested in seeing that discussion again. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Councilor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. So kind of follow up on Councilor Waldman's comment. Yeah, so I was looking at the second quarter report where you talk about you're only able to give 4,500 to the Corrales Historical Society. And I thank you for that. I think everybody who stepped up, I want to thank because
Thank you.
it was truly important to get that fixed. But along the lines of where Councilor Waldman's going, I'd like to see a scaled down version of the ACD. I don't know, it was just too complicated
Sure.
for people to follow, and it needs to kind of just stick to the facts. And we've already eliminated one item, which everybody was pretty opposed to,
Sure.
but let's not see that again.
Well, and I think we obviously learned something through that process in terms of, being able to ask New Mexico Main Street, this was really some of the language was very objectionable in our community. Are we able to modify and basically do what you're saying, a scaled down version and something that feels more, not friendly is not the right word,
I'd say
but
definitive, something that's a little bit
Yeah.
more defined,
Sure.
that's more indicative of what we need in the commercial area.
Yep. And cultural companies, organizations and companies that write cultural plans are few and far between and not really easy to find. And so I think, like I said, we learned a lot through that process as well. All valuable, but again, we're open to revising everything that we have. And I think information at any level is valuable, but what do we do with it? And then how do we move forward is kind of where we're at right now. So.
Yeah.
But I appreciate just the conversation about it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Waldman?
Yes, just I see Jim is in the audience. I'm just wondering if we have any update on the PAR.
Thank you, guys.
Not to put you on the spot, but
Counselor, Mayor, Jim Kruger, and yes, work is continuing on the PAR. The DOT has reinstituted their quarterly meetings, bi-monthly meetings with the village, and we're actually going to have a PAR work session with DOT tomorrow.
Oh.
So hopefully we can get some positive action, if you will, or traction to that whole project at this point. But the new people in charge at DOT District 3 seem to have more interest in it than what the previous administration at DOT did on that project.
good. Thank you for your continued effort on it, and good luck tomorrow.
Yeah, and just to build off of what Jim was just saying, in that meeting tomorrow, one of the reasons we are having that meeting is DOT wants to make sure that the requests that we've made for looking at the speed limit on Corrales Road and then their study to look at stop signs along Corrales Road, and then the lighted crosswalk request that we have put in at the request of our Equestrian Advisory Commission. They want to see how all of that is going to tie into the park. So they want to have like a comprehensive look at how all of those things can be instituted together to increase safety along Corrales Road. So yeah, we'll be meeting with them tomorrow.
Councilor Murray.
Thank you. So along those lines, getting back to the safe routes to school, would they be opposed to putting crosswalks in major intersections where the students could cross over and maybe take, the interior drain to school? And does APS still require a 1 mile?
As far as I know, that's still the distance for walking.
Okay.
With, anything further than a mile out is considered a busable distance, but
Okay.
Puts us at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Because a mile here, a mile there, we're done.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
That
no,
doesn't mean that we cannot ask that or come up with some ideas that we can bring to them
Yeah.
because of the fact that historically they bend those rules, especially outside of Albuquerque.
Right.
If you're in Cuba or whatever, they bend those rules significantly with good examples.
And the district is really focusing on safety. The number of years that the metro area has been number one in pedestrian deaths has really caught their attention. And so that is, they're looking more at safety versus some of the other stuff that they've looked at in the past. So.
Any other questions for Angela? No? Thank you, Angela. The next item is the Corraleños Forum. This section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion and debate, to inform the governing body of an issue or concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. There will be a 3-minute time limit for each speaker. We have a dozen speakers, I believe. Mandy, you want to
Yes, sir.
count out the people?
Yes, Mayor, Rick Thaler. And if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Rick Toller, even though it's not
Fowler.
spelled like that.
Thank you.
And my address is 483 Hanson Road in Corrales.
Thank you.
I was one of the original members of the committee that was formed to advance the idea of creating a park on the interior drain. And we've been talking about safe routes to school, all the things. And that was a big part of it. Fred, I ran into you on the ditch the other day and we chatted about it. And you said you thought it was dead because the neighbors complained about Amy Bell's plan that was submitted to the council. I wondered why it stopped there. And so I asked Melanie, and she said it was not revised or modified to meet the concerns of the neighbors because the project was out of funds. And I'm a little startled that the entirety of the $150,000 given to us by the legislature was spent only on the survey and the first draft of the architecture. But I can say that the plan that was submitted to the council did not reflect the priorities of the committee or the feedback that we got from all the public outreach that we did. And it really isn't a surprise that it generated negative feedback. And I got to say, we cannot let this project languish. The Conservancy doesn't want that interior drain anymore. And if the village doesn't do something with it, they will divest themselves of it sooner or later. It will become another 30 or 40 building lots and a long strip along the interior drain, or it will become Loma Larga on the east side with a river crossing. And that is not a paranoid delusion that has been considered and is not out of the question. Our mission from the first was to preserve the interior drain as it is, with the goal of reducing vehicle traffic, providing a safe passage for kids to get to school, improving wildlife habitat and fire safety, and assuring residents of access to their homes. And no more. We don't want a big fancy urban park. We want the drain to be the way it is in perpetuity. And if we don't take the responsibility to create something lasting and useful out of this property, someone else will give us something there that we really don't want. And so I urge you to restart the process and get the interior drain project back on track. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Next, Mandy?
Eric Johnson. Can you please state your name and address for the record? Thank you.
Eric Johnson, 3871 Corrales Road. I have 3 minutes. I don't think I'm going to take that long. I just want to compliment everybody who's sitting here in that our system of government from the local level is working, and I appreciate it. Okay. 27 and a half years in the United States Air Force. My last job, I had 11,400 people working for me in a $1.2 billion budget as the chief of maintenance for McChord Air Force Base, largest co-located base for Army and Air Force personnel in the world, 68,000 people. We watched every penny. Yes. So we watched every penny. So my goal tonight is to impress upon you that Corrales is a very small place. It does not have a big budget, and that every penny needs to be looked at before it's spent. In fact, it needs to be looked at more than once. And my issue is that, I've come to Corrales not late, because my sister lived here 70 years ago. But the fact is every time I hear the words $2.3 million for junior water rights from an unremediated piece of land, while we can borrow that same amount of acre foot from Bernalillo at $100 an acre foot, and I come down Corrales Road every morning to the farm stand, have my cup of coffee, and we are over pumping our municipal well right there every single day. Was that how we justified going after $2.3 million of what I perceive as worthless water rights? So I would like this council to go back, because we've heard twice from our water team that it's the overpumping of a well. When if you look at the amount of water and wells in Corrales, we're in the top 80%. We're not lacking water. We're not managing it. And I think that this board needs to do that before we even consider signing a piece of paper for $2.3 million. So that's my spiel on the water. On the schools, look, you're not getting just a bigger elementary school. You're essentially getting a middle school too. People on Target Road, do you know how many people come to a middle school cafetorium basketball game? Four games are played, 200 additional cars. So when you're going to talk about parking and people's spaces being done, maybe APS needs to invent some parking. So I take a look at that before it happens, because it's going to happen, and that's just the way that's going to be. Finally, I just really would like to compliment just the way this has been run by that lady right there. Your training Fred has been hard for his wife. How long has that been, Fred? I heard her back there. She doesn't say these things. No, I'm kidding. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Next.
Bob Eichhorst.
Yeah, Bob Eichhorst. I live in Corrales. Last meeting, it came up that we need to take over Corrales Road. That's the last thing we need to do. It's not a legal highway for the state to continue, and they know that. That's why they would give it to us in a heartbeat. But that gives us the liability. We don't want that highway. They'll pave it for free one time. We don't want that highway. We don't know what any administration will do at any time to that highway if the village takes over control. I'm not worried about Fred. I'm saying any administration. Okay, real quick, Melanie. If you put records, any of the old minutes, you can put in a waterless fire system that will protect them, because you don't want a sprinkler system. You want a wireless fire system. It worked great. And the comment about keeping bicycles off Corrales Road. In the early 70s, I witnessed a 10-year-old girl get run over down right next to the Montessori school. I was the only witness that saw it. Went 4 feet off the highway, hit a little girl, and kept going. If we separate off the road, 4 feet wasn't enough. Corrales Road is not a safe place for any kids. My kids were so upset with me because my daughter was the same age as that little girl that got run over at that time. Never let them ride on Corrales Road. Sorry, man. Sometimes you got to be a hard ass. I couldn't help that little girl, and they did nothing to the guy who did it. I went, gave my testimony to the state police. Nothing ever happened to him, except they spent thousands later on trying to implant stuff because he was paralyzed. They're trying to implant electrodes to enable him to walk again. We don't want kids on Corrales Road. One of the things I help run is the Pee Wee program at the school. We're talking about getting the kids away. For the Pee Wee program, because we're right on Corrales Road, our evacuation route is across Corrales Road down over to Montoya's house. Because it was safer, because we got 3- and 4-year-old kids. We can't go all the way back to the back where everybody else evacuates. So we went west, and that's what was approved. Luckily, people would stop for us at the crosswalk. That crosswalk still comes on every Sunday, 10 o'clock. Crossing lights still come on in that crosswalk. It's a dangerous crosswalk. I've almost gotten hit there many, many times directing traffic at Carnival. So, but we need to turn off the light on Sunday.
Okay. Next, Mandy.
Johnny Martinez.
Good evening, Mayor, Administrator, Council.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yeah, 65 Rafael Court. I promise I didn't talk to Bob Eichhorst about this before. I promise you. But I'm going to start off with a police report. This is from December. At about 7 p.m. on Friday, December 5th, the 14-year-old Albuquerque male who was walking westbound on La Entrada was grazed on the back by a right rearview mirror, a westbound vehicle being driven by a 77-year-old Corrales woman. The juvenile sustained minor injury and was advised, along with his parents, of state law section 66-7-339 of New Mexico statutes annotated 1978, requiring pedestrians to walk on the left side, only on the left side of the roadway or its shoulder, facing traffic that may approach from the opposite direction, and the driver was cited for an equipment violation. That's from the crime report. So, fast forward, a resident across from Sandia Bar was granted a permit to landscape the area in front of his home to prevent illegal parking. As a result, the safe pedestrian passage along that section of roadway has effectively been eliminated. This raises a serious concern. How can law enforcement advise pedestrians to comply with state statute when they are not permitted to enforce no parking ordinances that directly impact pedestrian safety? This issue is not isolated. Throughout the village, roadside parking restricts safe passage for pedestrians. I understand that some have expressed concern that additional signage would harm aesthetics in Corrales. However, this concern pales in comparison to the visual and safety impact numerous vehicles parked along the roadway. It's important to remember that children in the village still walk to school. For this reason, the village should consider installing no parking signs with a removable event parking only cover. These covers can be placed over the signs during village-sponsored events when overflow parking is necessary. We've also held public meetings in which a business was granted a license with the condition that its access to Corrales Road be restricted to a side road. Despite this, the entire business complexes are now violating that agreement. Also, in a recent meeting, we were told that the state is considering traffic control measures, an idea that was dismissed and laughed at in earlier discussions. It's not surprising the state is now reconsidering given the ongoing safety issues. One of the reasons that I do not personally support the village taking ownership of Corrales Road is my lack of confidence in the previous administration's willingness to enforce parking ordinances along the way or along the roadway. Without consistent enforcement, it's unclear what additional exceptions or violations might be allowed in the future. I'm trusting this administration will enforce parking and traffic ordinances. Thank you very much.
Actually, new business. Number 5, we're going to present a draft ordinance of no parking. And so anyone who wants to speak about that
No, that one is just for discussion.
Was this discussion by council?
Yes.
Sorry. Cool. Mandy, next speaker.
Andrew Shows.
Hello, Mayor. Council.
Can you please state your name and address?
My name is Andrew Shows and I live on 7373 Windover. This probably follows things up. The most dangerous parking situation right now is on the corner of Calle Cuervo and Corrales Road. That line of illegal parked cars and trucks is a blind spot, and it's very dangerous. Somebody's going to get killed in that corner. Anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up.
We've already talked to DOT about that.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Mandy.
Is it Sabine? Is that the way you pronounce it?
Sabine.
Sabine. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sabine Schutter, 47 Rincon Road.
Thank you.
At the last council meeting, the administrator reported that the comparison with other communities of similar population size in New Mexico resulted in the assessment that a planning department or full-time planner is not necessary for Corrales. What communities were used for the comparison with Corrales? What community characteristics were used for this comparison besides the number of residents? Are these communities comparable with Corrales when it comes to real estate prices or proximity to major population centers, which are drivers of development in Corrales? Maybe this information can be made available without an IPRA request to make your work easier. Another personal concern is school buses have started to use Rincon Road, probably due to the construction, which is understandable. Rincon Road is a private dirt road. Some of these school buses are going way faster than the posted 15 miles per hour, causing dust clouds, endangering people, pets, and wildlife. I would expect better from school bus drivers. Hopefully, this will come to an end once construction is finished. I'm disappointed of the administrator's report on the noise ordinance. The issue of violating our current noise ordinance and bad behavior of certain businesses towards their residential neighbors is getting old. We're now in the 3rd year. Now we're learning that drafting a new noise ordinance will take months, while the noise violations will most likely start again in about 2 months. We're sick of it. The administration should take action to protect residents from abusive business behavior, to protect the quality of life of Corrales residents, and to make sure that Corrales law is enforced as written. Reading the Corrales Main Street report, I once again was disappointed to see that no concern for residents who have to live with the consequences of economic development in Corrales has been shown. This takes me back to my first concern. Without good planning and a myopic focus on economic development as evidenced in the CMS report, affected residents are likely to experience an ongoing loss of quality of life. The assaults on the village and rural feel of Corrales will continue, and traffic on Corrales Road will continue to become even worse and more dangerous. This is not what 68% of Corrales voters have voted for. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Next, Mandy.
No, Carolyn.
Carolyn Wynn, 35 North Feliz Perea Road.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I want to follow up on concerns raised repeatedly in prior meetings regarding Perea Road safety, including congestion, line of sight issues, and lack of adequate infrastructure. These concerns remain unresolved. I do appreciate the installation of the no parking signs along Corrales Road. However, this has shifted parking pressure onto Perea Road, where Tesuka Stucco and the adjacent business continue to park trucks and trailers along the roadway on a daily basis. Recently, my husband was unable to pass on Perea Road because the vehicle was blocking travel. He had to stop and honk before staff came out and said that they would move their vehicles. While they eventually did, the fact that he had to wait in the roadway at all is concerning. This raises clear questions. Why is this an ongoing issue? Why aren't these vehicles parked on their own properties when there's ample space? And when an adjacent business says tree removal is the reason a truck is parked on Perea Road instead of on their property, why is this permitted for vehicles to occupy the roadway without any traffic control or safety measures? My husband contacted Code Enforcement Officer Dennis Edil, who indicated there is sufficient information to proceed with enforcement. Based on our daily experience, we have not seen any change. So my question is direct. When will enforcement actually begin? I'm also seeking clarity on how road projects are prioritized. I understand the village manager's explanation regarding the CIP, funding, and design readiness, and I appreciate the context. However, I recently learned Reclining Acres is scheduled for repaving. Yet, unlike Coronado Road, there is no clear documentation explaining the safety or infrastructure issues that justifies its prioritization. I'm asking how that decision was made, how Perea Road compares under the same criteria, and what steps are needed to move it forward. I also want to raise transparency concern. It has been brought to my attention that a council member may live on Reclining Acres.
I do.
I'm not making accusations, but when a road advances without clearly documented justification and a council member resides there, it can create the appearance of a preferential treatment. That perception alone is concerning. I also spoke with Representative Kathleen Cates, who explained that project priorities are shaped by the mayor and this council. If that is the case, transparency around those decisions is essential. Residents are not asking for special treatment. We're asking for clear enforcement, consistent standards, and safety-based prioritization. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You know, Mayor,
Raul Vigil?
Mayor,
I'm
I
sorry.
feel like I need
Sorry.
to respond to her
Go ahead.
because she directed that at me.
You can do that during the counselors forum.
All right, I will.
Raul Vigil?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Raul Vigil, Feliz Perea Road here in Corrales. Mayor, members of the Village Council, thanks for hearing us out tonight. I first want to start off a little off script. I just want to say thank you for putting the no parking signs. They're off the main road mainly, but we would really, I don't know if this is possible, but Perea really needs to have those signs there because we continue to have problems. I'm going to skip forward a little bit. Perea Road, as you know, is not only inconvenient, it's increasingly unsafe and costly for the residents that live there. The road is deteriorated to the point where regular traffic and emergency access are all affected. Residents are experiencing excessive dust now, and the road is often blocked, as we mentioned. Extremely frustrating. And I'm going to kind of just branch from that and encourage the council to provide our local police department with the ability to enforce the illegal parking. I don't know how that's going. We're hoping, we know that it's in the talks. We understand that it looks positive, but we do need to give them the tools they need to be able to enforce these things because that would be what they need at this point. Right now, it seems there's no other course of action that they can take other than talking to them. So we, as the neighbors there and the residents in this area, would really encourage and we support that no parking ordinance that's right next to businesses. And just as a friendly reminder, Perea Road is right across the street from the elementary school, and it's right across, it runs right between Tasuka Stucco and the Railcart retail space. So now we have more and more traffic. It's a dirt road, a lot of potholes, a lot of dust, and a lot of issues. Just a few things. We are asking as a neighborhood is if the village is committed to following through at the ICIP list and specifically to ensuring that Perea Road is paved. We want to understand whether this project remains a priority and if the village will stand with its commitment to the residents in this area. We understand that budget cycles on funding windows matter. And unfortunately, Perea Road missed its key budget considerations, but will Perea be placed on an upcoming budget request list so funding for paving can be formally pursued? We're hoping that that would be considered, and we hope that that will be the case. What is the realistic timeframe to accomplish this? We're not asking for miracles, we understand, but we're asking for a clear timeline. That way we can have certain reasonable expectations. And what can we as residents do to help move this forward? We're about solutions and we want to help. Thanks.
That's it.
Sam Behill.
Get my glasses here, I can't see very well. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for the
State
opportunity.
your address, please.
Can you please state
Mhm.
your name
State your name and address for the record.
My name is
And address, please, for the record.
Sandy Hill, 48 North Feliz Perea.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening again, Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here this evening respectfully requesting clarification from the council regarding how road maintenance and priorities in paving are established by the Corrales. How those priorities are advanced when the village seeks funding from the state of New Mexico. I'm specifically asking the council to explain for the benefit of residents what criteria are used to determine which roads are maintained, improved, or paved first. For example, how are safety concerns, road conditions, drainage, traffic, volume, emergency access, and resident input weighed against one another? What roles are played by the public works staff of the village administration, advisory boards, if any, and council itself? At what point does Corrales review or modify staff recommendations? When the village applies for state funding, whether through New Mexico Department of Transportation program, capital outlay, or other sources, how does the council decide which projects are submitted and which are not? Does the council formally approve projects, lists, rankings, or funding requests prior to submission? Are resolutions required? And are those discussions held in open meetings? Finally, how can residents know where a particular vote stands in the priority list? And what opportunities exist for public input before projects are advanced to the state? My request is not about advocating for any specific project tonight. Rather, it is about process, transparency, and understanding. Roads are one of the village's largest infrastructure investments, and clarity around how decisions are made helps build trust and inform community engagement. I would appreciate the council explanation. I know you can't do it this evening, or maybe sometime in the future, as to how the process works and how the information may be made available to the public. Thank you for your time and for your service to the village of Corrales.
Thank you.
Mary Boliak. Is that how you say it? Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Hi, yes, my name is Mary Bullock. I live at 54 Priestley Road here in Corrales.
Thank
You want to see me like that?
Let's sit together.
I'm at your. Thank you, Teresa. I thank you, council and mayor, for letting us speak. I appreciate many of my fellow residents of Corrales who've stated so much of what I want to say about the no parking signs. And I've spoken before you before in favor of no parking. Safety, safety, safety. I live right next to the Heritage House, and we've experienced many times special events and parking along Priestley Road that have cars have lined both sides, leaving a very narrow avenue for safety vehicles and children. We have young children on our block who ride their bikes to check the mail. It's really fantastic. So I really just encourage us to push this forward. Now it's been in the works for so long. Planning and zoning have recommended it. I think we can do it. I think it's a win-win. It lets people know what they're getting into if they want to buy in a neighborhood that is in this sort of district that has businesses. It lets business owners know. So it's a tool for information and education. And I appreciate you giving that your full consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. A lot of discussion revolves around parking
Say that again.
tonight, and there's an agenda item about an proposed ordinance for no parking. And so I advise you maybe to stay until that ordinance is presented and discussed. And I think it answers a lot of questions that have been brought up. So
Thank you, Mayor.
next, Mandy.
Mr. Johnson, did you want to address the board again for the farmland easements? Your name is here twice, Mr. Johnson.
No, it was confusing to me because you know that we're doing something about farmland conservation.
Okay.
So when that comes up, of course, they're not right now.
Okay, and David, oh, sorry.
Well, my partner actually wanted to say something about that. Is this time for us to say that?
For farmland easement resolution?
No, that'll be later on the agenda.
That was under the forum.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Any more speakers? Okay.
Teresa Lopez? Okay. So Teresa Lopez?
You'll understand how we work.
Okay. There was all these arrows pointing down. I wasn't sure what was going on there.
I just want
Can
people
you
to
please
understand.
state your name?
Oh,
and
sorry.
address for the record?
Teresa Lopez, 025 Rupert's Lane, Corrales.
Thank you.
I understand people have different thoughts, but I just want to say I appreciate the Pedestrian Safety Committee for them wanting to make Corrales safe to walk, ride bikes, or horses. Most people in that came to live here or have lived here in Corrales don't want sidewalks. And I've said many other times before, we don't need sidewalks. Coraleños like the rural feel. Main Street is still wanting to have a designated arts and cultural district in the village. It didn't pass last time. It was brought up, but it was voted down. If it goes through again, how will the Pedestrian Safety Committee feel about, how will they feel about safety? Main Street wants to receive final state of New Mexico authorization as an arts and cultural district for Corrales. In their words, that means more cars because of such big ways they're promoting Corrales businesses, things to do and such. Come see us. It will not be safe for anyone in Corrales, if Corrales keeps getting more and more tourists. Corrales won't be safe in so many different ways. We really aren't one of the safest places to be anymore. And on that note, I would think about, goodness, I did this like in 15 minutes, sorry. I would like for you all to think about the police activity on Friday the 30th and, oh goodness, and Monday morning, February 2nd, which is all very scary to me and many others. A lot of unmarked police car vehicles and U.S. Marshals, and they had a guy on the ground. They had a guy on the ground, and one of the U.S. Marshals even had his face covered, completely covered. This happened directly across from my house. All I saw was a guy in handcuffs that had been on the ground, and there was badged U.S. Marshals, but no marked cars. I understand the guy messed up on his parole stuff but he was here in Corrales and got brought down by U.S. Marshals. So is Corrales really the safest place to be? More people, more tourists, more crime.
Thank you. Salome Ward.
Hi, Salome Ward, East Meadowlark Lane. And I'm actually here to put in a plug for the Corrales Historical Society. I am the current chair of membership, and we are in full swing with our membership campaign. So I would just like to encourage people, if you never considered being a member before, please consider it. If you've been a past member, please come back to us. And I have access to the database now, so I know people in this room who are new members, and thank you very much, and other people who are last year members and still need to renew, and I count myself amongst them, so no judgment. I realized I hadn't renewed myself. So anyway, the old church is probably the most beloved building in Corrales. And when you participate and you become a member, you are helping secure its future, not only physically, but also with it being the historical and cultural heart of the village. And come see it. It just had the best renovation in years, probably. It's the best you'll see it looking, probably. It's going to have air conditioning in the summer. So please consider joining us. Thank you so much.
I have a question, Salome. I was a member last year, and I don't think I received any email or notification to renew.
Okay, good. There are emails that are going out with
Okay.
our new slogan, which is "Join the Mix in 26." So, so hopefully that's good to know. I'll look into it because we are sending out renewal emails. The website is corraleshistory.org, and I have forms with me, the old ones. Sorry, they're not the fancy new ones, but if you need a form, please let me know. Thanks.
Thank you.
David
Ready?
Janey? No?
I think he wanted to talk under the farmland.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I think we're done with that part.
Okay. The next item is a counselor's forum. This section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion and debate, to inform the governing body of an issue or concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. Counselor Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make something clear. Last summer, I went to Tyler Moxworthy's home, and Miss Yoon, Mr. Vigil, and some of the other neighbors were there. And I talked about living on reclining acres and having to wait 8 years until that road went up the list of the ICIP list. I never asked Michael Chavez, who was the previous Public Works director, to put that road on there, but I'm glad it's going to be on there. And we've waited. Is Mr. Janney shaking his head? You know, when you live in the Sandhills and there is a bad rainstorm, roads get wiped out. I understand, you know, when you live, you know, in the Bosque area or near Corrales Road, it's a totally different thing, the rain versus those sandhills. As Mr. Janney can attest, you know, there were old canals, acequias that went through there, and if there's a bad rainstorm, they immediately head that way. So, you know, to say that I had something to do or that there was something underhanded about having reclining acres repaved, that's wrong. So if anybody has a problem with that, please talk to me later. But again, when I was at that meeting, you know, Perea Road, we just found out, the village just found out they owned it last year. So it's kind of new to the village. And I've talked about being patient, because when you're working with government, you know, there's people in line before you. And I understand, you know, it's difficult when you live on a road that's washed out or has gravel, dust, but you know, things take time, and I wish I had $5 million to pave Perea Road, but I don't. So, you know, please don't accuse me of underhandedness, because that did not happen. Thank you.
Counselor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So to follow up on Rick Toller's suggestion, I think we ought to reconstitute the committee and work towards a minimalist design for the interior drain, and with the goal also to include safe routes to school so that the students can get along the interior drain to the Priestley Corps area so they can get over to the rec center. And also, I think that we could use that interior drain for the safe routes to school, because if we can get kids across Corrales Road at key intersections, they can walk down the interior drain to school. So I think we ought to, work towards that as much as we can. Also, I want to respond to the folks on Pereira Road. I am a member of the Metropolitan Transportation Board. It's under Mr. Cog. They do have a process where these projects could be submitted through their transportation improvement project facility. And it's an application online. And I think we as a village ought to take advantage of that as much as possible. So if Pereira Road needs to be paved, we need to probably drum up a plan and submit that to the tip line on the under Mr. Cog, and see if we can apply for funds, because they do have funds available. And considering that now the state has approved a $1.5 billion transportation fund, we may not get any portion of that, but I think we ought to work towards getting as much as we can. And as many roads that need to be improved, let's apply for that in that process. I don't know where the capital outlay is going to be. We don't know where the MAP and the local government funds are going to be right now, because legislation is still in process. But we may get money, and I don't know if we can allocate that towards improvements on Pereira Road, but I think we ought to explore that possibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Burkett?
Thank you, Mayor. I very much like that we get to talk after, because there were a lot of great things discussed today. So one comment on the interior drain: it's only helpful for kids that live south of the school. So we do need to have other pathways north of the school, because the interior drain ends barely north of the school. And so anybody that lives in the north end of the village, we have to have probably the ditch access roads have to become an option. Otherwise, Corrales Road is the only option. And then to Mr. Johnson, as far as basketball, I just actually got done coaching 2 middle school basketball games earlier today. We got our butts kicked in both of them. But I would very much love to see 200 people show up to the village at some point in time. And I know some people disagree with me on that, but if they were coming to watch a bunch of middle school kids play each other in basketball, I would be pumped about it. To comment on the construction on personal roads of the counselors, I very much believe in Mel's integrity. Ron and I actually had 2 patches that needed to get fixed on our road. We live on the same road that were unpatched for about 2 years, because him and I would see each other on walks and say that we never wanted to be the ones that called Public Works and asked them to come fix these 2 small patches, just for the concern that it might look fishy. And then finally, Rick Tuller is wearing a shirt tonight that says Corrales for people who like it slow. I think it's meant for traffic, but we have talked about a lot of other things that it applies to, such as the interior drain project, which is 2 years and $150,000. The ACD, which is 10 years in the works. Lighted crosswalks, which we've been talking about for 6 years. And the pedestrian access route, which is, I think, probably close to 25 to 30 years old. And no telling how many hundreds of thousands of dollars. So people in Corrales do like it slow.
Any other councilors would like to speak? Councilor Miera.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, fellow councilors. And then once in a while, see, those that Indiga, I mean, we get a little fasty that starts moving along. So I just wanted to report it. It just happens because we are working better with DOT. And that means we didn't say we can't work with them. We said we should work with them, and we are working with them. It's that attitude, I think, that really has an awful lot to do with the pushing that you all are doing it for. And I say that to say this one, there's some people that are, if you're driving up and down the far north end, those big old trees, I had a lot of my constituents say there's somebody walking around and they've got tape measures. And so that's a good sign. They're taking it slow, but they're getting it done. Those trees are getting looked at. But I'm more than anything, I'm worried about not only when the trees go down, and this is my plea to you, they're going to start going down, and I'm really hoping nobody's going to stand in front of the chainsaw, because they're like Chinese elms and they're not cottonwood trees that everybody says you don't want to take down a tree. And I may be talking to a whole lot of people that don't believe that every tree has to stand, but on these 2, they're dangerous, and we've made the passion. The people have spoken in that particular end of it, so they're going to be coming down hopefully soon. And then soon after that, we also have to take down a whole lot of vegetation that's on the left and the right side of it it that belongs to DOT, and they're taking their fair share and coming down and cutting those down. When it rains, they'll come right back up again. So we have to keep on cutting them down. But every once in a while, we hit the gold standard and we get a little bit of work done. So I'm just, if you don't mind, if I take a quick, so I know what I have to deal with, because DOT, you were there when they said, well, we'll cut your trees down, but I don't want anybody coming and standing in front of, and I use that example, standing in front of the chainsaw and don't cut the tree down. Does anybody really care that those 2 trees that are going down on that far end come down? Thank you. Because that you know, I too like to keep trees that should be up, and some cottonwoods and everything else, but these trees are not only dangerous, they're dead anyway, so they have to come down. Thank you very much.
Any other counselor would like to speak? Forum? Fine. Next item is the consent agenda. May I have an approval for the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Can I give discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Bowman.
Yes, very, very quickly. I would encourage anyone who's involved with the applications for events coming up for this year to consider the advertising budget to go to either Corrales companies or New Mexico companies. Last year, most of the advertising dollars went to some companies in California. I think we can do better than that, and I would encourage whoever's involved to consider that. New Mexico companies could benefit by that. So, thank you.
Yeah, I have questions about item number 7 and item number 8. So
really, we should pull those off the consent agenda. So council would have to make a motion to pull those off.
Councilor Murray?
I move that we pull item 7 and 8 off the consent agenda.
Thank you. May I have a second, please? Yeah, any discussion?
And then a vote.
Okay, no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. 7 and 8 will be discussed on the next item. So
now you need to go back.
now we have to go back to the consent agenda. So we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Resolutions.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
There's resolutions in the consent agenda, so we need a roll call vote for approval.
Okay. Roll call vote. Councilor Miera.
Yes, sir.
Councilor Waldman.
Aye.
Councilor Knight. Councilor Burkett.
Aye.
Councilor Murray.
Aye.
Okay, going to items removed from the consent agenda. I had questions about item number 7. This is the approval for the Viva Corrales event application. An issue I had was pages 115 and 120 in the packet were really hard to read, and some of them you couldn't read. And I sort of wonder, you know, I think that if somebody applies for an event, somebody applies for a position, a job position, you know, that the application is readable. And pages 115 and 120 were not readable. So I just have a question. Should this be put on the agenda for the next council meeting with pages 115, 120 readable? I'm just concerned about inadequate information because you can't read it. Yes, Councilor Burkett.
Just a clarification question. Were they turned in unreadable or did they join the packet unreadable?
That's how they came to us.
Okay, so they were this print level. Okay.
Yes, Angela. No, the handwriting and the type were sometimes is spotty, but it was very hard to read.
Yes. Yeah.
We're
working on, so we're working on an update to our website that will hopefully launch soon, and then all of our forms will be fillable forms on the new website. But anything we put on the current website doesn't always migrate over, so we're working on getting a fillable form for you. Yeah.
Your handwriting is good, but you have to make sure it's black ink and you know that you can really read what was sent to us. Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm I'm familiar with these applications, and even though portions of this is faded quite a bit, This is similar to what last year's event was presented. And I don't think there's anything that's deviated from that application, has it, Angela? Angela, if you want to speak, please. But anyway, I'm comfortable with it because I understand where they're coming from and what this event is about.
Yeah, I'm comfortable whatever the council feels, but I just think that, when we're presented with information to be available to the council, to the public, it should be readable.
Sure. Well, and I think if maybe making copies in the future or something is a solution
that.
before the fillable form exists.
But, but the public would like to see it too, because it's a part of a council packet.
Sure. Fine. Okay. Yeah, I think but it is the really only change on the map portion. I believe that Ride Strides and Giddy Up would like to be just like at a different location, so there's more visibility. So that would be the one sort of change from the schedule and the organizations that join in on it. But I think, I don't know if it would meet the 90-day requirement. Parks and Rec approved it. Waiting till the next council meeting doesn't necessarily affect us considering Parks and Rec.
Yeah, because technically it was still in under the 90 days. So if council chose to do so, we could ask for a resubmittal of the application and have it in the next packet. But it was approved by Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
It is an event that has happened. This is the 4th year now.
I think it's the 3rd. Okay. And the nature of the event is to highlight all the local organizations. And there's a portion of it that New Mexico Land Conservancy partners with us. The businesses have one day as well. So, from a planning perspective, waiting till the next meeting, I don't know that it would, hamper us too much, but definitely we're always available for questions. If anybody did have, like you said, something that seemed, just want to talk about it. That was the nature of the event.
But I think the point is that it should be readable in the packet for the council and for the public.
Well, hopefully the fillable form will take care of that, so everybody can see the font and the clarity, I guess.
Right. But
If I understand.
meantime, you have to adjust. There is no fillable form.
Yeah, we're happy to share it.
And so I'm easy to go with whatever council, like Councilor Murray.
I was just going to ask, this is a multi-week event, is that correct? Or is it...
Yeah, originally it started as one day. This was the signature event for the Arts and Cultural District. And originally the village was a co-sponsor on it. And so I say that because that was the reason, the impetus for the event was because we had to do it. I think it turned out to be a very supportive thing for all of the organizations and has been something that we get requests for support with, because it gives the opportunity for our residents to know, what's here. And so, yeah, I think, we're happy to keep doing it. I think it's been a good thing, but
it's also sort of an umbrella for many events that were already occurring in the village. And this just gives them, one opportunity to, get funding from the Lodgers Tax Board and things like that.
Well, it allows us to support a lot of the organizations in a way that is desirable for the organization. So basically what we're able to do is just take the request and then, support it in any way we can. But yes, it turned into a multi-weekend event because there were so many participants and weekends that were desirable for that organization. And we just felt like, the part of the initial feedback that it was too crammed the first weekend. And so that was the solution, and hopefully also disperses traffic, right? It's like there are things going on, people can pick and choose, and it doesn't cause like a funnel effect, on one day. So.
Okay. Thanks. Councilor Burkett.
So I would say in regards to the quality issue, going forward, hopefully we will get better quality, but I think we also kind of have to be the enforcers of that earlier in this process. This exact document was forwarded to 5 department chairs within the village, and not one of them replied in the email chain that they couldn't read the document or that they didn't think the quality of the document was such to where they could approve it. They all just said, yes, we approve it. So I would say that if not one of the people necessary to approve this within our administration said that they had a problem with it, then I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
And it's It's a stamp
Those are, nice.
request, right? So we all have seen this before. It's nothing new, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Do you have any problem resubmitting it?
No,
Giving the
we're happy to make copies. I think I
No,
have
I
a
mean,
copy of.
resubmitting the copy that we have, didn't just
Sure.
resubmitting it.
You mean like digitally scanning it, rescanning
Doing a
it?
better scanning job.
Yeah,
So with
sure.
that, Mr.
Whatever.
Mayor, I would make a motion that we allow them to resubmit it without having any problems with the fact of meeting deadlines or having to get the signatures from the other parts of the Corrales individuals.
So is your motion that you're moving to approve the application with the stipulation that they
Resubmit it.
resubmit a clear copy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully the issue's not on the uptake and, if that makes sense, happy to try to figure out a way that it comes through
Yeah,
properly.
yeah, and then we can just add it as a supplemental to the website under this meeting. It'll just be like an additional agenda packet and people can find it there.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item I had questions about was approval for the Viva Vino run. And I think the run's a good idea. But I had a question about street closures. We're from 7 to 10 a.m., which includes Ella and West La Entrada. And I wonder about maybe a conflict between people running up and down the streets and residents using those streets. How's that going to be handled?
Have you experienced issues the past several years when they did this event? This is also the 4th or 5th year for the Viva Vino event.
I know. I just worry a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying, it's not, but it just seems you're going to have traffic, going up and down those streets, 7 to 10 o'clock in the morning, and they're going to be runners on the streets. I mean, there's a little liability issue there. And
As far as I know, we never had any complaints the last several years when the event occurred. So if you want to, again, if council chooses to put a pin in this, we can ask the event organizer to come and make sure that he's here for the next meeting.
I mean, I'm surprised your event organizer isn't here because this is an agenda item that, it's a little concerning, the liabilities. Nothing's happened. Maybe we're lucky. But, we really need to be proactive and plan for something can happen, and it's not inconceivable.
Yep.
Councilor Burkett?
Thank you, Mayor. 2 points. One, for this particular one, and I think for most of them, they have their insurance rider included in the packet. So, I mean, that wouldn't alleviate the challenge of somebody getting hurt, but they do show sufficient coverage to cover for that if that was to happen. But my second question, and one that I hadn't thought about till our previous conversation, is there is a map on here showing a recreational pathway running down the ditch that we just had a discussion about. We can't have maps showing that as a recreational pathway.
I know they do get a special approval from MRGCD. So maybe that's what we need is some kind of event,
Right. The people
special
coming for
approval from
walking can get it,
MRGCD.
but the kids going to school cannot. Yeah. So yes, I
So
think
we'll just submit one every month, counselor, and just, hey, this is.
if we have to, yes. That's exactly right. I like it.
And actually, somebody had mentioned this to me before, maybe an organizer, and I thought, I got the sense that it was going to run up and down the Bosque. I said, you should talk to the Bosque Commission, but they should talk to MRGCD to get.
Yeah, they've I think
permission.
in their application, it states that they've already requested permission from MRGCD to use those properties. And if MRGCD doesn't give them permission, then the event doesn't happen. So.
Okay, well, as I said, I just have the concern about the potential issues of an accident because it certainly can happen. But I'm not opposing it, and it's fine by me.
They have time to come back still within that 90 days for next meeting, so we could just, because I thought where you were going to come, Mr. Mayor, was on that page where it said waiting on approval from MRGDC and NMDOT. So by that time, we could kill two birds with one stone. Come back, they talk about it, we could get that approval.
Yeah, NMDOT does tend to be a little slow on the approvals. I think the Starlight Parade, I think Sandy told me that she got approval, I think the day of the event. Yeah, I don't think we necessarily want to hold until those approvals come in. But I do think a stipulation that the event is approved with the stipulation that if approval does not come from NMDOT and MRGCD, that the event cannot take place.
But they could come back and explain themselves for the
They
next
could.
meeting.
They
I
could.
think we should just allow them to come back.
Yeah.
You want to make that motion?
Sure.
Is there a second for Counselor Miera's motion?
Could you re-stipulate the motion, please?
Then we're gonna give them time to come back and speak for themselves on their particular, that they come back and speak for their proposal.
So
at the next
postpone it
meeting.
to the next meeting?
At the next meeting.
Okay, I'll second that.
Any discussion? And I'd like to add something to the discussion is I think that anybody who applies for an application, maybe they ought to show up to the council meeting. So there can be interaction between the organizers and the council because maybe, this motion wouldn't have been necessary if they were here.
We usually try and remember to, we ask them to attend the meetings, but,
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Who seconded?
Counselor Murray.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is new business. Pardon me?
Sorry.
New business, item number 1, confirmation of appointed official. I guess I, as mayor, nominate the clerk, and I nominate Mandy Wolf. She's had a wonderful track record at SCAFCA, serving for eight years or so, with glowing recommendations from SCAFCA people, including our previous mayor. Any questions for Mandy? Councilor Murray.
Mayor, I'll move that we approve Amanda Wolf as the village clerk.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose? Congratulations, Mandy. You're officially on board. Next, consideration, action, and approval of Resolution 26-7 authorizing the Village of Corrales to enter into option agreements for farmland conservation easements and setting forth a process for utilizing funding to complete purchases of conservation easements.
You should probably make a motion and then you can.
Yeah, can I have a motion, please, to approve this?
So moved?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
And Michael Cisco is here to answer any questions that anybody.
Michael, you want to come up to the mic, please?
And then Mandy, we had 2 people that wanted to speak for this issue. Is that right?
Farmland easement?
Yeah.
David Janey?
No. So I think it was just
think
Mr. Johnson.
Eric John.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, we'll let Michael answer questions first, and then we can.
Good. Any questions for Michael, Council?
Just a simple
Councilor
question,
Mayor.
Mayor. Thank you. Any changes since the last time we spoke that individuals knew at that time that what their funding was going to be and what their problems were going to be in the future? So that doesn't change. Everything's still the same.
Everything is still the same.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Michael Cisco? And we can have public input. Eric, you want to have your friend come up?
In a galaxy far, far away, a long, long time ago, Once upon a time, that's about 14 months ago, I met Michael. I'm gonna let John Whitney, my partner, speak.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Whitney. I'm from 3871 Corrales Road. I'm a 5-year resident. About 4 years ago, we leased the property in front of us, the 1.5 acres that we're putting towards the conservation, with in mind to keep it ag. So this opportunity is nice. We bought it from we leased for 3 years, and we bought it from the Liddicots about not even a year ago, and again they're all for it too, for the ag, the conservation grant. Our only little thing is we're kind of hoping that moves a little faster to get to an answer. It's kind of been from our side, it's kind of dragging a little bit, so hopefully we can get it moving, because we just can't afford to have it bare, that kind of way, from even a business point of view. So that's kind of the gist of it. We're all for it. So the last meeting, someone mentioned maybe divvying the funds 5 ways, get everyone in on this. I think that'd be great. We all want a green Corrales, so why not divvy it up for everybody? Get everyone in. That's my speech.
Thank you, John.
You said Alan? Did you say Alan? Yeah. Okay, can you state your full name and address for the record, please?
I might need that step 2 here. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Alan Brower, and I'm the Senior Director of the Knock Inspired Schools Network Indigenous Farm Hub up in Tresello Fields. And we're super thankful for this opportunity. We invite you out to our farm and see what we're doing. We've had over 1,000 students out to our farm through farm to school activities last year, and we expect as much or more this year. And we serve over 200 families with fresh produce every single week during our growing season. And so we're just really thankful for all the work and all the thoughts behind conserving the land. Councilman Wallman, I think we started this process with Michael in 2020 with the last GEO bond to conserve land. And I just had a chance to talk to the matriarch of Tresello Fields, who still lives there. And we visited, and her name is Miss Henry. And I spoke with her. I didn't tell her about the conservation. We just haven't had a chance to talk too much of late. And I just shared with her last week that we're really excited about making this space for time immemorial farmland. And she just cried, because I think she's a 5th or 7th generation family member, and she still remembers being out there with her grandfather doing some of the work that I still do with our students and for our families. And so we're super thankful for this, and we want to invite you all out to our space, and especially as it gets a little bit warmer and we start growing outdoors. But we also have 2 hydroponic greenhouses that are in production right now as well. And so we would love to invite you all out. And Mayor, Ms. Romero, you too. Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2607. Is there any more discussion? Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So my understanding is that the appraisals were going to come out of the bond money. Is that correct? Is there any way that we can move that up a little bit and still take the money out of the bond to pay for an appraisal that maybe starts earlier than what the bond sale goes for?
We already have the money in the bank. So if you remember, council voted to sell this bond. It's been almost 2 years now. So
are we moving forward then with the appraisals then?
With this resolution, first we have to get the agreements in place, and then we can move forward with the appraisals. And I believe, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to do appraisals on the first 2 properties and see what the funds will cover. And then if it looks like we'll have additional funds, we'll move into the lower ranked properties.
And how soon will we know that?
Do you have an idea, Michael?
To put you on the spot.
So it most likely will take about, a month to get the properties under agreement.
just because we have to educate the landowners about what's in the agreement, what they're agreeing to, possibly have them have legal review of the agreements themselves, get them signed. So probably 3 to 4 weeks to do that. And then we engage the appraiser. They're typically about 1 to 2 months out on projects. So probably take another 2 to 3 months to complete the appraisals.
So we're probably looking June, July, somewhere in there.
June,
We
July,
might have
yeah.
an idea then about how much much we can spend and then how much is left over.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, if you can come up so that the people on Zoom can hear you, please.
The votes leading up to this point recognized 5 properties. To split the valuation process and to double the time for the other 3, when the only person who really came up with the twofer was the former mayor. I don't know if that's normal or not, Michael. I mean, we have 5 properties. Why aren't all 5 getting an evaluation at the same time?
I think it's an issue of the money available, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So there's not.
And I also think we get into slight issues with the anti-donation clause if we do appraisals on something that we're not going to move forward on with, purchasing at this time. So yeah, we just need to make sure that we have enough money to cover all the properties with this bond sale.
Just a rebuttal for that response. You don't know if anybody's going to purchase their property until you get a valuation and an offer to them. So you need to do it for all 5, because you are, if you want to state that we don't have the money to do that, we can't do that under this, you have to have a rationale that applies to all 5 of these property owners, unless this council says that, listen, we're only going to consider 2. So I would object to that.
Well, that's what they're voting on this evening, so.
Any more discussion on this resolution?
So we're just making sure that the 2 that we're going to look at, there's enough funding available for those. And if there's any funding left over, then we can apply that to the remaining properties. And we're not in violation of the anti-donation clause.
Yeah. Yeah. There's provisions that, because of this type of program, it's not violating the anti-donation clause, but also, I don't want to get us in any hot water with our auditors doing anything. So just to be on the safe side, I think we should probably just make sure that we're covered.
Councilor Burkett.
Just one more question. Remind me, and I remember seeing it in here somewhere, but I can't find it now. When do we have to disperse the money by from this bond?
June of 2027.
Okay, so we have
little over a year.
16 months, 15 months, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I agree with the reason we ranked them was so we can preferentially evaluate them. And I mean, whether 2 is the right number or 3 is the right number or 4 is the right number is probably a question mark, but I think we have the time to do 2 and then keep moving down the preferential list.
Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
It's a resolution. You have to do it by roll call vote.
Oh, okay. Councilor Murray.
Yes.
Councilor Burkett.
Yes.
Councilor Knight. Councilor Waldman.
Aye.
Councilor Miera.
Yes, sir.
Okay, motion passes. Next item. Consideration, action and approval of orders regarding resolution 25-46, clean lane for 744 Old Church Road and hearing thereon January 27, 2026. May I have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Actually,
I believe we were going to leave that up to the attorney to give us, they were going to do
It's in here.
and we're okay with that right now.
Yeah, he brought up exactly what the council decided at the appeal hearing held January 27th.
And so we have it in wording now, so
Yeah.
we're okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question. We either approve or we deny. But what we're doing is we're there's a clause to maintain the property free of rubbish, trash, etc. And so this is sort of running into the future. And so is this so if we approve, can we run in the future and say at a later time, you haven't maintained it?
Council's already made that decision. They made that decision at the appeal hearing on January 27th. This is just, when we have an appeal process, part of that, because it's a quasi judicial hearing that could, it's like a court hearing. So we have to have,
Findings.
usually it's findings of fact, but this case was a little bit different because of what it was with the clean and lean. So basically, all you're doing is just certifying that what you decided on the 27th is what is in this order, and that is what will be sent to the property owner. So it's no approving or denying. They've already done that.
Can I ask a question along the same
Yeah,
vein that we
that's
can't
okay.
do anything about, but I'm curious. 1955 Chevy Bel Air can remain on the property as long as it does not leak any fluids or attract vermin. There are a lot of vehicles in the village that both leak fluid and attract vermin. Probably not too many of them are 55 Bel Airs, but that seems, one, borderline silly, and two, really difficult to determine if vermin find that car attractive. So I'm just not sure how that's an enforceable thing in a legal document.
Yeah, I think it would totally rely on somebody filing a complaint that there's vermin on the property and code enforcement going out and tracking a nest to that particular vehicle.
Taking a poll.
Right. Yeah, I was surprised to see that level of non-enforceable detail, but
It is what it is.
yeah.
Anyway, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Since is this a resolution? We'll take a roll call vote. Councilor Miera,
Yes, sir.
Councilor Waldman,
Aye.
Councilor Knight,
Aye.
Councilor Burkett,
Aye.
Councilor Murray.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item. Consideration, action, and approval of conceptual plan for the Gonzalez property bathrooms to be used to create a site development plan. Now, what this is just a conceptual plan. It's not a site development plan. It's a conceptual plan that a site development plan might be developed from. And so if we approve or this conceptual plan, what we will do is we will have the next meeting, will be posted and published and posted then? Or can we just approve it today?
No, it can be approved today.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why it was listed as
And the
consideration.
big issue about this is we have funding for the restrooms right now, and the funding expires later this year. So even though that's a reason for not doing the whole package, because the whole package, the Gonzalez 3 acres, the library, the rest would take a fair amount of time. And we just like to put the restrooms where we think is reasonable and get on with the funding process.
And there'll be an amended site development plan at some point in the future to address the rest of the Gonzalez property. But one thing that Mayor Hashimoto would like to implement is any village projects that will be going before planning and zoning, that we add this new step, which will be to get a conceptual plan, bring it to council, allow for public input before it even goes to P&Z, before it goes to a designer for final drawings, because then that way we can take the public input and include that to our architect or designer, whoever actually creates the plan that gets approved for P&Z. So going forward, this only applies to village properties, not any residential, not any commercial, just anything that the village is doing on its municipal property. It is something that we will start doing going forward, is having these conceptual drawings approved by council before we move forward with a site development plan that gets approved by planning and zoning.
Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So a couple comments. I noticed the proposed gravel walkway, is the gate now going to be to the park over down where the indication is on the south side?
Yeah, we've had plans for quite some time, actually, since we purchased the old bank, to move the entrance to the park on that fence to the coming off of the old bank parking lot. It's just been a matter of scheduling with, Parks and Rec. And then we're going to work on the pathway and all of that as well inside the park.
Also, I know that in our ordinances that the buildings should look similar to other buildings that are within the locale. And I was wondering about the pitched roof on the bathroom, the library, bank building, and the other building, what used to be the old post office. They're all flat roofs. Why are we putting a pitched roof on that bathroom? Or should we think about trying to make it integrated into
we'll
the?
look at that. It's like a prefab building, and I do believe I've seen pictures of ones that are available where it does look more like a little Adobe building than something with a pitched roof. But I'll have to get back to you on that one.
I'd like to make another comment that the conceptual drawing was done by a group. I mean, Pat McClernand, an architect and planner, was involved. Ed Bowles, architect and planner, was involved. Public Safety, Public Works, Parks and Recs, they were all involved in discussing maybe this conceptual drawing. So there was a group of village staff, village architects with a lot of experience in planning who actually have worked for the village, worked for village projects. And so that's where we came up with the conceptual drawing. Councilor Burkett.
Thank you, Mayor. So I am visualizing where the benches are on the west side of the play structure and where we intend to put the new gate. And maybe I'm off, but I think that massive play structure is going to impair parents' ability to see if their kids are going out the gate, because where the gate is now is the view is not blocked from any of the benches for parents to see where the gate is. And it makes me a little bit nervous from a safety standpoint that if a parent is sitting on the bench, that they will have an obscured view of the gate and not be able to see if their kid is still in the play area.
Okay.
So
That's
something
something
to think about.
We'll take a look at when we go out to look at it.
Another fence.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Ed Bowles, and Bill, do you want to answer any questions or have any comments about this plan?
Good evening. I'm Ed Bowles, and I'll answer what I can of your questions. By the way, Councilor Burkett, it may be possible to locate that gate really near the corner of the fence on La Entrada Park and make it more visible in that way.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of that, but I think it might be possible. I have an aerial here. It's a little too large scale to really say for sure, but it seems possible. I forgot the protocol. Good evening, Mayor and council members.
On that point.
Yeah, you can just
Well,
refer
the-
to us
the
AU.
Longest should come like overnight for you. But on that point, it was a good question whether or not a flat roof might be more appropriate for the bathroom. Is that possible?
To my mind, that's a really solid point.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Waldman?
Yeah, as I recall, the funding for this was approved in last year's capital outlay. What is the cost? Do we know how much was approved?
I think the grant that we received was for 202,000 and it was a 50% match. So we set aside 202,000 of village funds to match that grant money.
And do we know what the current day cost would be? I'm concerned that cost of everything has gone up and that grant plus the others may not cover it. Do we know?
Yeah, I don't know if we've gone back and looked at the costs from the company, because this, like I said, this is a prefab building that this company provides all of the bathrooms along like I-25. So it's a company that does this, and hopefully we won't run into any issues like we did with the animal services building.
We don't have a
but
contract for a specific dollar figure at this point.
no, not to my knowledge. Tanya is texting me. Let me see what she's.
Councilor Murray.
Tanya actually says she has. Yeah. Okay.
As what?
I believe Tanya has double checked costs for everything. She's managing the grant for us and kind of heading up the project from the village's standpoint.
Councilor Murray and then Councilor Knight.
Okay, so also I've been talking with the equestrian bicycle group, and they would like to see the path around the Gonzalez property put back in or installed like we have been talking about for the last 3 years. So is this gravel walkway, it's not going to be used by horses?
Not right here in front of the bathroom, I don't think.
Well, I mean, they were looking at a path out from that Gonzalez back 5 acres to Corrales Road. And now it looks like that we may be impeding on that a little bit.
Tanya is on the Zoom if it's okay if we have her, because she knows a little more of those questions, the answers.
Was that a go ahead?
Yes,
Thank
Tanya.
you. Thank you, Mayor, Council, Administrator Romero. No, we were going to leave. There will be room for the path to go through that is still there. I actually wrote the grant to also make sure there's a hitching post that is not shown that will be placed so people on their horses will be able to use the restroom. We are still going to be within the grant amount of funding. And I'll be happy to look at a flat roof construction, but we may want to get a little more I may have to come back for a little more funding just because I don't want to we've had so many problems with the library roof leaking, the council chambers roof leaking. I want to make sure we put a really good roof on the structure so we don't have leaks every time we get a big rain, which isn't always, but that may add some cost to make sure we have a really good roof or a better roof than the pitched roof.
So where's the enclosure going that you're going to remove?
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear you, Councilor Murray. The enclosure?
Drawing, you have remove existing garbage enclosure. Are we still going to have a garbage enclosure for the bank building or not?
I'm not sure. I have not seen these drawings that they drew up. It is going to be in the same area, roughly 5 feet north. It's going to be 10 feet off the property line at least 10 feet off the property line of La Entrada Park. Maybe a little more just because there's that path there. And then it will be the front property line is Corrales Road in that area. So it's not, I don't even know if we'll have to remove the garbage enclosure. If we're going to utilize that, I believe we have to put gates on it too, according to our ordinance. I think it has to be completely enclosed if we use the garbage enclosure there. Does that help a little bit?
Excuse me, Tanya. I was just saying it's a problem to be solved.
Yeah.
This is a schematic design.
Well,
This is just a conceptual drawing. So.
Could cut the corner of the fence and, make it a angled gravel pathway and leave the garbage disposal, garbage enclosure where it's at. So I'm not opposed to that, but anyway, just wondering where it was going to go.
Councilor Knight.
Oh, I was wondering, have you talked to the artists in Corrales? Because I know they were thinking about putting a mosaic up someplace around the northeast side of the children's playground.
I think it's going to the west of where we want to place the bathrooms.
It's going to go to the west?
Yeah.
I'd like to add something about the style of the building. The public and quasi-public zone calls for an overall appearance expressing the characteristics of territorial style, Spanish Pueblo style, and Southwest vernacular style, which I think subsumes or has subsumed under it New Mexico vernacular style, which is a stucco wall and a gabled pitched roof with corrugated roofing, for what that's worth.
Actually, this should have been done earlier. Is there a motion for approval of this conceptual drawing?
So moved. Second.
Any more discussion? Councilor Burkett.
Just a question. Approving a conceptual drawing, how bound are we to what's on this paper versus approving a site development plan? Because substantial changes have been discussed. And if we approve this and then those substantial changes do exist, does the approval hold any value? That's the benefit of doing this at the site development plan phase, is everything is very crystal clear and everything is measured and everything is more dialed in than conceptual. I like this idea, but I think this is probably better for when we're having a discussion about a project versus when we're voting on a project.
A site
Because
development plan will come later and, details can be discussed then. This is just sort of where generally are we going to put it, brings up some issues. And we just do this before a site development plan instead of, here's a site development plan, guys, let's vote on it.
so do we even need to vote on this then, I guess is my question. Or do we just move forward to the site development and vote on that when that comes to life, knowing that the council likes this general idea and wants to dial it into a site development plan? Should this even be a voting object, or should this just be a discussion?
That's a good point. I think this is the very first time we've ever done this process this way. So, if council doesn't want to approve it and just give us approval to move forward with the design with consideration of these items that have come up. Normally we don't bring a site development plan to council for approval before it goes to P&Z, mostly because if it gets to P&Z and it's appealed, it comes back to the governing body who's already approved it. So we're kind of taking away the public's ability to appeal it. So we don't want to, bring a site development plan to you first to approve. So, it's a little awkward here, but we are looking for some sort of go ahead from the council that, yes, this is okay. And we wanted to give the public a chance to comment on this before it goes to full design.
Councilor Murray.
Thank you. So I'm kind of in line with Councilor Burkett that we just should just approve this conception to move forward, and then we'll let the chips fall where they may. And if the P&Z says yay or nay, then if it winds up back to us, then we haven't crossed any lines.
So are you proposing an amendment to the motion?
Yes, I would move that we amend the motion that this conceptual plan move forward to a site development plan for approval by planning and zoning.
Good. We have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Who was that?
Waldman.
Thank you.
Any discussion on this amendment? All in the favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. So going to the main motion, is there any more discussion on that? Councilor Murray.
We're giving public time to wait.
Yeah, as far as I saw in the sign-in sheet, nobody signed up under this item. So I don't think we had anybody that is present tonight that had a comment.
Councilor.
Unrelated question, but related to the schematic here. Is there still ongoing discussion with Wells Fargo about moving the ATM? No. It's going to stay. That's it. Okay.
Yeah, also because for safety of our residents, we really want it to remain in an area where they can safely drive through. And I'm not sure where on the property we could move it and still keep it a drive-through for our residents.
And what about this existing curb here, the concrete curb? There's been discussion, particularly around Harvest Festival, about, the ability to be able to get through that area, into that area. Open that up a little bit. Down into the park. In the parking area here.
Are you talking about the curb in between the two properties, or
No, talking about
the curb
between the old bank and parking area of the office building there?
Yeah, there's a curb between the two
And
properties.
Taylor.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was asking clarification.
There's also a curb at the west edge of the bank parking lot.
Yeah, right.
They'll have to be modified if they're going to be crossed.
I think we certainly help during Harvest Festival, particularly if people could have access to that whole area. I know part of this is has to do with the kind of the master plan that the architects came up with, back in September. The flow of traffic and those kinds of things. So, just something to consider going forward.
Councilor Murray.
Yeah, thank you. Councilor Oldham brings up a good point, because I parked there a couple of times, and for ADA purposes, you can't get from the bank parking lot into the gate. That curb prevents that, and it's also in very sad condition.
Yeah, that's the gate I had mentioned earlier that we're planning on moving so that it opens up onto.
People who use the office building for parking should have the ability also to go north and into the new gate area as well. So if we could reach some kind of agreement with the office building that we could remove maybe 3 feet and make that ADA compliant so that people can pass back and forth. That would be.
So you want to open up that, it would take out some of the parking spaces, but are you saying you want it open so that people can drive through there
No,
or
no,
just walk through there?
walk through.
Okay.
For ADA compliance. Yeah.
Do you understand what they're talking about enough to adjust the drawing? Okay,
Yes,
that's
thank
the
you.
important thing.
Thank you. And we have several sets of the drawings that we can distribute to the public if you think that's a good thing to do. Might engender some comments.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, well, there's a motion and a second.
Question?
Yes, Mandy,
The amended motion,
it passed.
but does it replace the original motion?
The amendment passed.
So what they're going to vote on now is the amended motion, which is instead of approving the plan itself, they're giving approval to move forward with a site development plan.
Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion from council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Last item on the agenda is discussion of draft ordinance providing for no parking areas along residential streets neighboring commercial establishments. May I have, I guess this is just discussion, isn't it? So, is somebody going to present this or talk about it? Okay. So,
Can I?
I mean, you've seen the draft ordinance. Any discussion by council?
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. So my first one is 2 commercial properties along Corrales Road with a road between them. Is that road considered commercial up until the point where commercial zoning ends and then it becomes residential? Or if a road has a house on it at any point, is it considered a residential road?
Mr. Mayor, Counselor, I'm not sure what you mean about 2 commercial establishments with a road in between them.
So just pick any 2 businesses here on Corrales Road. Almost every one of them has a road between it.
Let's take Perea Lane. They have Tasuki Stucco on one corner and then the new building that was going to be locomotive. It's not.
Right. And they're both zoned commercial, but they're only zoned commercial to a certain depth. So is the road then a commercial road to match that depth? Or is it a residential road the whole way because there's houses on it at any point?
I think where there are houses, it's residential. even
Then
if it
every
may
road
be
in the village
interrupted.
would be residential, correct?
Pretty
Because
much.
there's houses on Corrales Road. So that would make that a residential road.
No, I don't believe so. The road is what that area is zoned as. And Corrales Road is the, what is it called? Neighborhood commercial?
Yeah, but it goes whatever 200 feet off of Corrales Road,
Right,
the
right.
neighborhood commercial ends. So in my mind, that's where the road would transition from commercial to residential. But there's houses that are right up against Corrales Road, so there could be a scenario, and there are scenarios where there's a house directly across from a business. The business is zoned commercial 200 feet back. The house is residential all the way up to the front, and I'm unclear on what we would define that road as, commercial or residential.
So part B of the ordinance states that any part of a residential street neighboring a commercial establishment. So I think we would need to clarify what neighboring means. And do you think we need to put a number of feet from the commercial property, or what do you recommend, Ken?
No, I think the counselor's comment is well taken. It's how do we define a residential street? Because like you say, it may be commercial on one side of the street and houses directly across.
Right.
I don't think we can, I mean, I think it's a good point. I think it needs discussion. I was kind of trying to put into words what P and Z had suggested, but I think it's a very good point. I'm
Okay.
not sure right now how to resolve it.
Okay.
Laurie, you want to give
Yes,
some
Laurie.
clarification maybe?
Thank you.
Mayor, counselors, Administrator,
The purpose of this ordinance, I mean, if you visualize the problem, it's not necessarily just adjacent to the business. It can go pretty far down a residential street. So if neighbors, you know, a third a mile away, half a mile away from from a business are experiencing this problem, we, the village, could put up no parking signs there. It's not just necessarily right there at the interface between a commercial and residential. It can go down the road. You saw it on Meadowlark. We saw it on Priestley Corval, where they were just parking up and down the street, and it wasn't really anywhere near the business.
Right. And I think that's my question. And that's the real concern is, I mean, I think in front of the business, in my mind, it's okay for a car to park directly in front of the business. But as soon as the commercial zoning ends, and that's not on Corrales Road, but on the side roads, if there's space on the side of the road and if they've built space for parking, then I don't know how we tell them they can't use that.
Well, it's in village right of way often, and if they park on both sides of the road, they take a 2-lane road down to.
Right. But if it's not in village, if it's on their land,
Oh.
on the side of the road, and it's zoned commercial, despite the fact that there's a house further down that road, making it potentially a residential street, can they not use those spots?
I think we were thinking about public right of way, you know, the side road
Well,
that
then
we.
I think commercial,
Yeah.
residential, any road, someone should park in public right of way.
Correct. That's what this is for.
Okay, I find that confusing because I think that could be a single sentence that you cannot park in public right of way and you will be ticketed if you do so.
Well, except the right of way does extend beyond, you know, where there's paving, the right of way usually extends beyond the pavement. So you generally, people are parked in the public right of way all the time.
Right.
But I know, I think your point is a good one. Well, I think you've raised two good points. One is what is, you know, Lori just mentioned, it's not necessarily just adjacent to, it could be, you know, 4.5 mile down the street that people are parking there because it's easier to park there to get to the
Right.
bar or the.
And I think we should put an end to that because people should not have to deal with that, but it.
Yeah, no, I
drifts.
agree.
My second question, how are we handling home permits? If somebody has a home occupancy business permit, how is that being handled?
In our code, they are required to contain all of their business parking on their property, period, end of story.
Okay.
We just didn't really have that for commercial.
So if it's on the side of the road, on their property, not in public right of way, then that is okay. But if it's.
I mean, we asked them to show where their parking will be on their
So
property.
every home occ permit does have a site plan and shows
Correct.
where their parking spots
Absolutely.
are. Okay.
Counselor Knight?
Mayor, you know, reviewing this and talking to some people about other municipalities, you know, doesn't the village have some responsibility to get parking for visitors? I mean, you know, when you go by the Gonzalez property, there's a big mud pile right when you drive in. And I've seen cars park there and use that, but I don't think everybody knows that that's available, or there's really no signs about that. And I think the village has a responsibility to identify areas where people can park and have it not just be a mud pile, you know, to have some gravel in there and that, you know, people know that's available. Because you wouldn't know that the front of the Gonzalez property is available to park. I mean, a couple months ago, there was signs there that said, you know, parking, but at this point, there's nothing.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Mr. Mayor, Counselor, I'm not sure that's something that can really be addressed in this ordinance. I think we've got enough work cut out for us to address the half mile down the road issue that Lori mentioned.
But you wouldn't have to do that if there was available parking from the village.
Right.
But I'm just saying, it's something we need to think about.
The businesses are required to have on-site parking anyway. And
Right.
so if someone is a visitor to the village because they're going to visit a business establishment, that business establishment has to have parking on site.
Right. But then don't you think, I mean, don't you, when you go to other villages and communities, their municipality helps with parking and, or at least identifies it.
Some do, some don't. It's been my experience, Counselor.
But again, you know, businesses are required to accommodate their clients on site, period. They want to park somewhere else, but any business is required to have adequate parking for its clients. And so, you know, residents don't want people parking in front of their homes, who are, you know, who don't live there or aren't friends transiently there.
No, I understand that and I get it, but I'm just saying there's another portion or piece to this that I think we need to look at too.
Yeah. Anderson. Yeah.
Councilor Mira,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councilor Mira, then Councilor Waldman.
Two questions. First of all, Chief, have you seen this proposal so far?
Council Mayor, Mayor Council, no, I've not.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, you probably want to take a look at it because the second question was just assume, and that's a big assumption because we're not to that point. We propose some of this and then we agree to it. Would you be able to enforce it is the other issue. And there's my second question that you don't necessarily have to answer, but Mr. Mayor, on that part about, because, you know, he brought up a really good point. Okay, brought up a really good point. Starting after it's the business, then there's a house behind it that becomes residential. It's at that point, according to what we have right here, you could put up the no parking sign. And so they wouldn't be allowed to park in front of those people's homes. And then it could go on all the way on down the line. I don't know that you have to have a no parking sign to do that because there'll be a whole lot of no parking signs every time there's another resident that's behind you and then the resident behind you. That not taken into consideration, but just the mere fact that you have to put up a no parking sign so that people won't park there. Otherwise, they don't know that they can park there. And so that's why I came to you in the first place. How are you going to be able to enforce that? When people say somebody parked in front of my house, but you don't have a no parking sign there, they have a right to park there.
To help the chief out here, I think that I believe that if it bothers the residents, if residents complain that people are parking where they shouldn't park on the public right of way, and or there's issues of public safety, getting vehicles through that area, a no parking sign can be placed there at the discretion of the administrator. So, you know, if my neighbor puts a no parking sign up, I'm not sure I want to put one because that'll suffice for 50 feet, 100 feet or whatever.
Exactly.
You're not going to have, you know, I mean, and people don't particularly care to have a no parking sign in front of their house. And so it's going to be up to the residents to say, hey, you know, this is happening, put a no parking sign in front of my house. And that gives the chief, he doesn't have to make a judgment of, has this person been warned? Does the person know that there's no parking? You can be ticketed.
Yep.
You know, so the discretion is the administrators at the attention of a resident complaint or a public safety issue to put a no parking sign there so that the chief won't have an issue of who to cite, warning, whatever.
And that was pretty much the essence of my question is, do you need that no parking sign to enforce no parking?
Yes, sir, Council Mayor, Mayor Council. So yeah, I've had numerous discussions with Lori about the ordinance, so I'm familiar with, I haven't seen this particular draft, but so right now there is no ordinance just for parking in the right of way. Just if you're off the pavement, then you're pretty clean, right? When we do get complaints, you know, East Meadowlark, last summer, the summer before was kind of a hot spot. We were getting complaints for, you know, people at a local business parked along in front of people's homes in the right of way. In and of itself wasn't a violation. If they were parked partially blocking somebody's driveway, then they were in violation. Of course, if they were on the pavement obstructing traffic, then they're in violation. And we're still going to try and get voluntary compliance, right? We go into the business and say, hey, can you move the blue BMW, for example? And 100% of the time they would do that. So, but now, yes, the signs would enable us to simply take the enforcement action when warranted, and it would, in and of itself, would be a violation. I do understand there could be sanctions against the business itself too, under, you know, their business license or code enforcement issues because they're not complying with the restrictions of having their patrons parked upon their property.
Got it. Thank you, Chief.
Councilor Burkett.
Just a question about that. So is their responsibility to make sure that areas are marked no parking, or is their responsibility to go out and enforce that people aren't parking in those
It's
spots?
the business's responsibility,
Correct.
Counselor? No, so that's gonna be, they're responsible to have people parked on their businesses, but if they're not doing that, or if they're not aware of it, we could have at the administrator's discretion, the no parking signs in the proximity. I mean, we'd have to identify the problem areas, but it could
Right.
be a matter of a block, it could be a half a mile, like Lori said.
I mean, the only place I can think of right now that really has that is over by Hannah and Nate's. There's 3 or 4 neighbors down the street there that have no parking signs. What does enforcement look like on that currently, if any?
Well, fortunately, we haven't had any recent complaints there. So, and I could tell you it's not part of the officer's regular patrols because of the lack of complaints. So, so far, so good.
Councilor Waldman.
Mayor, just a quick question. If there is a business on the corner of, let's say, West La Entrada and Corrales Road, okay? And 100 feet down West La Entrada, someone's having a dinner party. There's not enough room in the driveway. There are 3 or 4 cars parked in front of the house. How do you differentiate between the cars that are at the dinner party at someone's private residence and those cars that are at the business on the corner? I mean, how do you do that? I mean, would it be prudent? I don't know how you would enforce this, but suggest people call your department and say, look, we're going to have some extra people and there's going to be some extra cars. They're not associated with the business. They're coming to.
Councilor Rowland, Mayor Council, it wouldn't hurt, but it wouldn't really change anything. If we were to get complaints, if they were to call my office at noon that day and we got complaints at 8 o'clock that night, the on-duty officers are going to have to go investigate the source of the overflow, right? And try and get people to move and at least clear out the roadway. Then they're not gonna, if it is a private party, they're probably not gonna be able to accommodate all the traffic in their driveway, but trying to get them to at least where they're not blocking the road.
And I would guess whoever is holding this private party might talk to their neighbors and say, hey, I'm having a party, a graduation party, and there are going to be 10 more cars here. Would it be okay with you? So
Hopefully they've invited the neighbor to this.
right. Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So looking at our ordinances for both A1 and A2, we do not have anything that says placement of parking. It says none, but it would be real easy just to put a parking, one sentence in there that says no parking on public right of way. It'd be real simple. And then at that point, we're covered throughout the village in both the A1 and A2. I don't know. I don't know if that's a workable solution or not, but I mean, right now A1 and A2 don't have it. So why not put it in there?
Mayor. Councilor Murray and Mayor and Council, and also our hope and anticipation with this particular ordinance would be that the signs would have a great deterrent effect as well. Because, right now when we do get those complaints, people just don't know, they're not supposed to.
I don't have a problem with signs in the commercial area, especially at the end of a commercial property where residential starts and just say no parking beyond this point or something to that effect. But yeah, I mean, it's right now though, I mean, we could modify A1 and A2, solve the problem for the entire village and then go in here and do the commercial portion so the business don't park on. It seems like to me with Councilor Burkett talking about Rincon, we have a private road. I don't think we could do anything with that because it's private. But if it's a public road, we have the ability to go in and change that.
Yes, sir. I believe my 3 minutes are up, but I agree.
Nice try.
You get more than 3 minutes.
And actually, just to speak of, to the point of how far down the road, like Precy Coralville is sort of a loop. And a person on Precy said, hey, if there's no parking at the Heritage House, that people realize that they'll just come down and park in front of my house. So I think a street neighboring a business, it might go for a while, it might curve. But, certainly people down the street can be affected by no parking in the proximate contiguous area to the business. And so
that's why I was kind of anticipating maybe we should put it in the A1 and A2 zone. We have where it says placement of parking and it says none. Put it in there as a simple sentence that you will not park on public right of way. And then it's covered in the zoning. I don't know. I mean, is that a feasible idea?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Murray, I think most parking along roads are to some extent within the public right of way because the public right of way extends beyond the part that's driven on generally. So most parking on most roads in Corrales will be at least partly in the right of way. I think, and I think I need to chew on this some more. Like I said, I think some good points have been raised, but to change the wording of the sign to residential parking only. All others will be ticketed and towed, something like that.
That would be a Corrales sign, not something that you put up yourself. In other
Oh, yeah,
words. Yeah, something official.
But you know, one of the biggest hurdles here is to try to make it enforceable against the businesses if they know that their patrons are parking up and down the roads. And I don't know that I haven't been able to think of any way to do that. And even if I'm parking to go to the bar, I don't necessarily think of myself as commercial parking. I'm just parking to go to the bar. So, I mean, it's probably not going to be a perfect solution, but I think it's probably worth sharpening my pencil and taking another crack at it.
If there's no sign in front of that, the side street of the bar, you'll park in the parking lot.
You know, that's not a bad idea, something like that, yeah.
No.
Please.
Yes, Laurie.
Well, it's kind of off from the big picture. So as you know, and it was, you know, in comprehensive plan, and you've heard it, there's that inherent conflict between residential interests and commercial interests. It just is, you know, they're different goals, I guess, if you will. So this parking was one of the most, second only to noise complaints. In my office, I would say parking was the single most irksome thing to certain citizens who couldn't get out of their driveway or just couldn't even get down the road. So we've been talking about this and hearing about it in planning and zoning for years. And so the Planning and Zoning Commission came up with, well, you know, there's got to be some kind of signage because otherwise you just don't know that you can't park there if you don't have a sign. And then B, it needs to be enforceable. So that was the intent, just so you know. We're just trying to make it so that it's problem areas that we all know about and have heard about for years. And, you know, and if new businesses create new problems, then this would address that. Nothing's perfect, but I think it takes care of a problem, a long-standing problem. Thank you.
Councilor Murray.
Well, I was wondering also, do we give these folks a grace period of 60 or 90 days before we start implementing tickets? So, I mean, most places, you know, where you have something that's enforceable, they'll give you a grace period, get you aware that you could get a warning. You won't get a ticket, but you'll get a warning that, you know, past this date, we will start issuing, you know, tickets. It seems like to me that you've got to educate the folks somewhere, somehow. But also I was thinking about also at the end of the commercial district for each of our public roads, then you have a sign like it says, no, from this point on, no parking on residential or public right of way. So I'm not opposed to that.
One thing that I think might be added to the ordinance is for A1 and A2, there's the phrase of who directs placement of the signs, and that isn't in the neighborhood commercial. So that piece should be also in the neighborhood commercial, that the administrator at the response of a neighbor complaint or
request
request or
requested.
public safety should be, you know, can direct a sign be put up. So that's in A1 and A2, but it wasn't in neighborhood commercial. And so maybe that could be put in neighborhood.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think it can be something added to all of the zones, the historic zone and.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you.
And so should we have a motion to, no, we don't need a motion, but this will be published and posted?
No.
No?
No, I think from the comments that we've heard tonight, this needs to go back to the attorneys. Ken's already said he's made note of, yeah. And so I think this needs to go back to the attorney for a new draft, and then a new draft will come back for,
Publish and posting.
no.
No, this discussion?
No, it'll come back for another discussion.
Okay.
And then the public can also have comments on it next time.
And then there'll be a publish and posting, and then there'll be
And then it would go for
approval.
approval.
So there is ample opportunity to give input to that. Councilor
I
Woolman.
ask a somewhat unrelated question, but it had been discussed here publicly previously, having to do with Heritage House. Previous discussion was that they did not have a certificate of occupancy or a fire inspection. Has that been resolved? Do we know?
Lori?
They do now. So the Planning and Zoning Department has a sign-off sheet for site development plans. Steve Lescu for wastewater, fire, myself, the building official, Enemy D, if it requires, if it's a restaurant, et cetera. And they have gotten all their signatures and they are ready to go.
They have.
Mhm.
So they don't have as yet, but everything's in place to,
They get open whenever they want.
they can, okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? No, you can't make public input, I'm sorry. This is discussion by council, that's how it was posted.
If you do have comments, you can email them to either myself or the clerk, and we can distribute them to council if necessary. Or you're welcome to email the council directly as well.
Or talk afterwards if you'd like. Anyway, any more discussion on this item? Okay, good. So moving along to announcements / future agenda items. Number one, approval of resolutions for changing PERE plans for police and fire employees. To be determined. 2 is uniform traffic ordinance changes, first reading. That'll be next meeting.
Hopefully next meeting.
3 is records instruction request. We've talked a little bit about that today, next meeting. And 4 is discussion of Mr. COG board memberships, next meeting. So any other items you like, Councilor Waldman?
Just a question about number one. Could you share with us what is involved here with the para?
Right. So we want to move our police and fire to the highest level of the retirement plan, which is Para Plan 5. And in order to do that, we have to you have to pass a resolution calling for a vote. And so the police and fire have to vote on moving to Plan 5.
Okay.
Then there has to be a resolution because we had written into the budget that we would pick up the employees portion because going up to Plan 5 increases what the employee contributes. But we decided the village would pick that up. So the employees won't increase what they're paying into para, but the village will increase
So we've
much more.
discussed this before, but we haven't really acted on it.
Yeah, well, we're waiting on, so in order to enact this, we have to pass the resolutions within a certain number of days of the para board meeting. And we're trying to coordinate with them to get on their agenda.
Got it.
So it doesn't do us any good to pass a resolution if we're not on their agenda, and then it just goes nowhere anyway. So we're having some difficulties getting in touch with the people that schedule that on their end. So it's a total of 5 resolutions that will have to be passed.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Any more ideas, requests? Liking none, we've finished all the business items and the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. MRGCOD board memberships?
The para, oh, no, Mr. Cog.
Yeah.
So everybody
Oh, it is.
several years ago with